So in terms of oxidation, there's an ad hoc study on the web showing us to be 172 times more powerful than vitamin C. And there's peer-reviewed published research showing us to be 125 times more powerful than vitamin C. So I'm from Texas. We got a big old check mark on antioxidant. Now, when it comes to inflammation, we have to be really careful about how we talk about inflammation. And because the FDA equates conversations with inflammation, about inflammation, with the diseases of inflammation, which are also the diseases of aging, right? So that's arthritis, Alzheimer's, cardiovascular disease, cancer. And so if I come on your show, thank you so much for having me, but if I come on your show and say, we solve chronic inflammation, the FDA hears me saying or claiming, we cure cancer, we cure cardiovascular disease, which is not what we're saying. Right? There is so much more research that we would need to do, so much more expensive research that we would need to do to make those claims. What the FDA does allow us to say is that we address exercise-induced inflammation.
Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio, podcast, and television show. I'm your host, Life Coach Myrna Young, and sitting in the guest chair today is Chris Burres. Chris and I are going to be talking on the topic, how does the ESS60 molecule contribute to longevity and healthier lives as we age? Now, if you've been a frequent listener to this podcast, you're knowing that for some reason, we're trending towards longevity topics. I'm like spending a lot of time on health span and lifespan and longevity topics because that should be our focus. We want to live longer, but we also want to live healthier. So this is the first time I've heard of this molecule. So I am excited to learn about it and also share it with you. So welcome, Chris.
Myrna, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to share this molecule with you and your audience as well.
Yes. All right. So let me give you guys a brief introduction. Chris Burres is the founder and chief scientist at MyVitalC, where he manufactured a Nobel Prize winning molecule responsible for the single longest longevity experimental result in the history, a full 90% extension of a life. Wow. He's also a published author, host of the Uncovering the Secrets to Longevity Health Summit, a podcast host, a patent holder, and a master of comedy improv. What a well-rounded individual. You never heard of a scientist being a comedian. He is the intersection where science meets laughter, and his life's mission is to help people live longer, healthier, happier, pain-free lives with science. Yes, science is becoming the foundation of how we proceed in this new world. So amazing. All right. So with that introduction, I know that everybody wants to know what exactly is ESS60 and how has it shown to impact longevity in humans?
Yeah. So what we're talking about is this ESS60 molecule. So I'm holding up a model of a molecule. If you're listening, just imagine a soccer ball where the lines on the soccer ball represent the bonds between the carbon atoms. So you have a spherical molecule of 60 carbon atoms. The molecule was discovered in 1985 at Rice University. That's here in Houston where we're based. And the three scientists who discovered it actually won the Nobel Prize for the discovery. So you kind of say the molecule's a Nobel Prize winning molecule, but we all know molecules don't win Nobel Prizes, scientists do. So the three scientists who discovered it won the Nobel Prize. They won the Nobel Prize because this molecule is amazing. Not only is it the first closed cage molecule, right? So the first molecule that doesn't have any dangling ends that was ever discovered. It is also a molecule that performs as well or better than the current best material in almost every application. So it makes better inks, better batteries, better tires, better photocells. And this is where people get nervous, right? They're like, wait, I thought we were talking about maybe a health supplement. We were talking about longevity. Chris, you just said inks, tires, batteries, and
I know.
photocells.
I'm thinking the same thing too.
It's like, no, that does not compute, does not compute. And so the story gets a little worse first, actually. So there's one shape on the exterior of this molecule that's reminiscent of benzene. In fact, it occurs 20 times on the exterior of this molecule. Now, benzene is ubiquitous in our society, and we do not have modern society without the benzene ring. As an example, if you just glance around wherever you're at and you think about everything that is plastic, notice everything that is plastic, it would be gone without the benzene ring. Its foundational molecule is the benzene ring. Many medications are founded in the benzene ring, including aspirin and a lot of detergents. So, summary, ubiquitous in our society, the benzene ring is everywhere, but it's usually bonded with other atoms to make different molecules. But when benzene is alone, it's known to be toxic and known to be carcinogenic. So because there's 20 of those effectively rings, there is actually one difference. There's no hydrogens, but because 20 of those effective rings are in this molecule, they assumed it would be toxic. That's when they put it in a toxicity study. In that study, they gave Wistar rats water as the control group. So one group got water, olive oil as a semi-control group, and then olive oil with the ESS60 molecule. Instead of being toxic, the test subjects given the olive oil with the ESS60 molecule, really the MyVitalC formula, lived 90% longer than the control group. So that's the single longest longevity experimental result on mammals in history. It's peer-reviewed published research. And I'm very proud to share that our lab provided the material and our lab is mentioned in that original study. And our most consistent, just to share, our most consistent testimonial is people take it in the morning, they report mental focus and energy during the day, and then better sleep that night, which is actually pretty fantastic because I'm not aware of anything else that you can take in the morning and positively impact sleep at night. You can think about if you get exercise, that'll help you sleep at night. If you get exposure to the sun, your circadian rhythm will get in line with the rising and falling in the sun, and you'll sleep better that night. But to take something in the morning and positively impact sleep is pretty fantastic, and it speaks to, supports the theories that we have about what this molecule is in fact doing in the body. And then I'll add, if the only thing we did was improve sleep, then it's going to improve your mental, physical, and emotional well-being.
Wow. Wow. So it's an amino acid?
No, it's a closed cage carbon molecule. And what
Okay.
we believe that it's doing is that it's getting into the mitochondria and working as a free radical sponge.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, it's a unique molecule that functions in a unique way in the body.
I love that.
And I'll
So,
add,
okay.
because I think this is really important,
Mhm.
it's a naturally occurring molecule. So you, even though you've never taken our supplement, you, Myrna, have been exposed to it, right? And the way
Mhm.
we know this is if you take the soot from a candle flame, and normally you would just take like a cold steel plate over a candle flame, and you would get that deep, dark soot on that cold steel plate. That has parts per million or parts per billion of this ESS60 molecule. So it's naturally occurring, and everybody has had minimal exposure. It's just such a small amount that it's not, having a
Doing anything.
demonstrable impact inside the body.
Okay. All right. So that was the first question. So I love the fact that it's a free radical
Mm.
because, the free radicals, uh, I mean,
Well, you want
there's a
an
sponge for
absorber.
the free radical.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's not a
Yep.
free radical. It's a sponge for the free radical. Yeah, and I just haven't finished having a conversation with someone that was talking about, I think, glutathione, which is also
Glutathione.
something,
Yep.
right? That's also something that is, that is taking away, or whatever the word is, the free radicals. Because for anybody who doesn't know, oxidative stress and things like that, that's what the free radicals, produce. So when you
Mm.
have something that takes away that, then that is good. So anything that sponges up those free radicals, is actually very good. Now, you said something about the rats that they had to take it with olive oil. So is that how you, is that the base for this supplement? You put it in olive oil?
Yeah, it turns out this is a carbon powder, right? So if you had a pile of the powder in your hand, it would actually be crystalline, right? Kind of like sugar crystals or salt crystals. It would just be black, not a surprise. It's carbon.
Hmm.
And if you were to consume it, if it was ESS60, you could certainly consume it safely, but it's not water soluble. So you would just excrete it out. It would just go right through your intestines and you would just excrete it out. When you dissolve it in olive oil or MCT oil, avocado oil, and different oils, you break down those crystals into
Mm.
individual molecules. So now you have individual ESS60 molecules floating around in that olive oil. And so it's basically infinitely more bioavailable. And that brings it down again to the monomolecular level so that you can then get it into, in this case, we believe that it's getting actually into the mitochondria, which is
Yeah.
an important piece of the story.
Yeah. Wow. So that's great. Awesome. All right.
Now, some people ask, like, why olive oil? And here's the reality. The original study was out of the University of Paris, and I imagine they drink more olive oil than we do here in the States. And they had some olive oil on the shelf. It was Tunisian olive oil, which is the same country that we get our olive oil from. And so they just mixed it in olive oil because it was what they had on the shelf. It turns out that the molecule dissolves best in olive oil. You get a higher concentration of the molecule in olive oil versus an avocado oil or an MCT oil. So that is kind of the preferred dosing, and it's really what we recommend people take when if they're interested in trying the product.
Wow. Yeah. Well, hey, I mean, I picked up with that when you talked about the studies,
Mm.
with the rats, I think you said. But yeah, so that's great. Well, olive oil is good for you.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I like the fact that you said that it helps with sleep because you're right. 70% of the population has problems sleeping, including
Yeah.
me. I put my hands up.
Yeah.
Right? I always have to take something to sleep. I mean, once you're menopausal, that's basically your experience.
Yep.
Okay,
Now
so
I'll tell you, so we actually have a bottle. We relabel a bottle for menopause support, specifically because my wife went through early onset menopause and she was struggling with all the symptoms of menopause. So the heat flashes and in her case migraines. We're actually about to start a migraine study, but she really insisted that we add a menopause support label to our product line because of the impact that it had for her. And she talks a lot on social media about she's from Panama, so she talks about menopause in Spanish, and
mm,
has quite a following. Um,
mm,
Now, when it comes to migraines, we're really excited because we're about to start a migraine study. And the reason we're going to start the migraine study is as follows. Now, I'm going to go ahead and throw out an FDA disclaimer. So the FDA has not evaluated our product. It is not intended to treat, diagnose, cure, or prevent any disease, including migraines. I'm just sharing the reasons that we're starting a migraine study. So I am the geeky scientist guy who's sitting in front of you or you here chatting. And I have a spreadsheet back to 2014 tracking my 4 to 5 migraines per year. I was tracking them to try and figure out what was causing them because migraines are miserable. Like they're just
yeah,
absolutely horrible
yeah,
experiences. If you haven't actually had a migraine, the way I describe it is think of the worst headache that you've ever had and multiply that times 10. Typically debilitating to the point of you're going into a room, the room needs to be cold, it needs to be dark, and there needs to be no noise. Like this is a miserable experience.
yeah.
So all the way
I've
back to
heard, I've never had one, but I've heard that explained. Yep. Yes.
it's debilitating.
Yes.
So all the way back to 2014, 4 to 5 migraines a year. When we finally brought this product to market, which is a whole interesting story, I started taking the product in 2018. For 18 months, I didn't get a migraine. So I should have had 6 or 7 migraines. And when I finally got one, it was because we did a sleep study with our product. And part of the sleep study was you had to go off the product. And when I went off the product, I ended up getting a migraine. So
You're kidding.
that's one of the
Wow.
reasons that we're doing. There's really 3 key testimonials, which is the reason that we're doing the migraine study. The next one is my wife. She used to get 9+ migraines per month.
Oh,
And
wow.
I remember 9 because she had a medication and they would only give her 9 per month.
9.
So the other, she really got about 13. So the other 4 she had to suffer through each month without a medication.
Hmm.
Um, you know, your significant other, sometimes it takes a while to convince them to try something that you've heard of. But I did finally get her to try it, and her migraines went from that 13 per month down to 1 or 2 per month, or even every other month. So that's pretty amazing. And then, really, the thing that kind of pushed me in the direction of starting this migraine study was I was on a podcast and we reconvened on the podcast after she had tried the product. And it was actually a 2 hour podcast. The first 45 minutes of the second podcast was her telling how the product had given her and her husband their life back because her husband's migraines were so severe. It was just it ruled their life. Like you would wake up and like, is this going to be a good day? Is this going to be a bad day? Are we staying home quiet in a cold room with no light and no sound for him? Or are we actually going to be able to do something? And for 45 minutes, she was just effusively thanking me and, you know, for getting her husband back. And that was the impetus. You know, I wish sometimes, so often, I wish I were smarter and had jumped on these things and we'd have a migraine study done. But, you know, whatever, when the signals smack me in the face enough times, then we'll go ahead and start this
Yeah,
migraine study.
nothing before the time. Amazing. All right. So I'm going to ask you this question because I know you're the science geek. So, what exactly is going on?
Mm,
So, this product gets into your mitochondria. The mitochondria, for people that don't know, is your gut. And it dissolves you. It's responsible for taking the energy from your foods and distributing it and all that. So, what exactly is happening with this particular module that makes it affect migraines, make it affect sleep? What is it doing? And then we're going to get to the aging part in a minute, but let's
yeah.
separate that for now.
Yeah. So what we know from peer-reviewed published research is that this ESS60 molecule gets into the mitochondria. We also know from way back in the 90s when it was discovered that it can hold up to 6 negatively charged particles on the exterior of this cage. Right. So what that looks like, kind of refresher, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of every cell. There's between 50 and 5,000 mitochondria in every cell in your body,
Mm,
except for your blood cells, which have 0, and your brain and neurons, which have 2 million. I mean, that's how much energy our nervous system uses relative to our other systems. Like every energy source. So you're right. The mitochondria is the thing that's responsible for taking the food that's been digested, the nutrients that's really the glucose that's gotten into our bloodstream, and converting that glucose into ATP, which is the energy source every cell in your body uses in order to do its job. Liver cell, heart cell, kidney cell, whatever.
mm-hmm.
Like every power source that you're familiar with, there is a negative byproduct. You think about your car going down the road, you've got exhaust. You think about a power plant, you've got the smokestack and the smoke coming out. In the case of mitochondria, it's reactive oxygen species. The way I describe these, and you did describe them accurately, I think of them like little bumper cars, right? And if they're left to their own devices, everything they're slamming into, they're causing rust, oxidative damage, oxidative stress, ultimately inflammaging, that confluence of inflammation, and really that leads to aging. Internal to the mitochondria, you're going to love this piece, there are 2 antioxidants. One of them is glutathione, right, which we've already discussed is an
Yeah,
absolutely, yeah,
I had
an,
to throw that in.
an absolutely amazing antioxidant. And the other one is melatonin, which is the sleep hormone. And I love to kind of pause here because remember, our most consistent testimonial involves better sleep at night when you take it in the morning. Melatonin, the sleep hormone, is pivotal in this piece of the story. So
Mhm.
typically your mitochondria is producing these reactive oxygen species. You've got enough glutathione and melatonin to manage them. But what happens when you stress your mitochondria, right? And by the way, how do you stress your mitochondria? I like to point out you're alive in this modern society, you have stressed mitochondria. And in
Right.
fact,
Okay.
let's pretend you didn't. That would actually be not a good situation because you should be working out regularly, right? You should be maybe doing a little bit of intermittent fasting, which will stress your mitochondria. But even if you're not doing those things, you're still, you know, going out in the sun, getting exposure to the sun. If you take a plane ride, you've got exposure to EMF. If you live in a city, you have smog and the stress of driving and the stress of conversations with loved ones and the stress of emails that are coming in. So if you live in modern society, you have stressed
Yeah,
mitochondria.
stress, right? Okay.
When they're stressed, they produce extra reactive oxygen species, more than the internal glutathione and melatonin can manage. And that's when they run around like little bumper cars, causing this oxidative stress, oxidative damage. And that's where we believe the ESS60 molecule comes in. Remember, again, we have from peer-reviewed published research, we know it gets into the mitochondria. We believe it holds on to those reactive oxygen species, up to 6
Mm.
of them, so they can't run around like little bumper cars. They can't go around and do any
That is the
damage.
negative charge that's
Yep, the
grabbing it.
negatively charged
Okay.
particle.
Okay.
And then when your mitochondria replenishes the glutathione and melatonin, then it can manage those reactive oxygen species appropriately. So I have a fun analogy. And, you know, I kind of think that all biological analogies, they should be using these in medical school, should start with Mardi Gras. I mean, a lot of biology happens at Mardi Gras, so why not?
Oh,
So it's the
really?
end of
Okay.
Mardi Gras, and you have these drunk reactive oxygen species on Bourbon Street running around, smacking into cars, smashing windows, causing oxidative stress, oxidative damage. And you have the New Orleans Police Department, the glutathione and the melatonin, coming onto Bourbon Street, handcuffing themselves to those reactive oxygen species and getting them off of Bourbon Street. But what does the New Orleans Police Department do when they get overwhelmed? They actually take these drunk reactive oxygen species and they put them in a paddy wagon. They attach them to the exterior of this ESS60 molecule so they can't do any damage. And then when they can replenish the glutathione and the melatonin, then they can handcuff themselves to those reactive oxygen species and get them off of Bourbon Street. And that's why we say that the ESS60 molecule is the boss of buffering oxidative stress system.
Well, that's pretty good. Yes. So I see now where it helps with aging, but tell our listeners basically how it works as the primary drivers addressing the aging, which you
Yeah.
mentioned inflammation, because chronic illness comes with aging and it comes from inflammation. You want to expand on that?
Yeah. So, as I was kind of stepping into the role of being the chief scientist, you know, previously chief scientist of a carbon nanomaterial manufacturing business, right? And we manufactured the molecule, distributed the molecule to research institutions around the world, which we still do. So that's the highest level of exacting standards that you could ever work at. When we finally decided, by the way, it took us 4 years. There was a time where we were like, we don't want to be in the supplement industry. We are, I call us happy-go-lucky carbon nanomaterial scientists, and we were happy delivering commercial quantities of carbon nanomaterials to research institutions around the world. And every time my business partner and I got together to think, to consider getting into the supplement market, we just said, no, it's not where we want to be. It doesn't have the exacting standards that we're used to. Finally, a guy on YouTube you know, that's how it all starts these days, right? He had a huge following. He started talking about all the benefits that he was getting, taking it on a daily basis. And then our
Oh, wow.
phone went from ringing 2 to 3 times a week to 10 times a day. So now we really, at that point, we asked ourselves 2 questions before we got into the market. The first is a moral question. Are we comfortable selling it? So I take it, my wife takes it, everybody on our team here takes it. By the way, that's not a requirement to work here. Like you don't clock in and take your shot and then move on, right? It's like really the team here, they have access to the research and probably more importantly, they have access to the testimonials and they're amazing. And so everybody here takes it. So yeah, morally, we're very comfortable selling it. And then from a legal perspective, you got the FTC and the FDA, you got to cross the T's, you got to dot the I's. So we're doing that. You heard me do the FDA disclaimer earlier. So
But
that's
hang
what
on, let me interrupt you. I thought that FDA didn't manage supplements. They do?
so they are involved. It's
Okay.
interesting. So this is yeah, I'll talk about that. So my role changes now from the chief scientist of a carbon nanomaterial manufacturing business to the chief scientist of a supplement business. And so now I got to figure out what are the rules and regulations? How do we do this? And I'll tell you, I'm reading through the rules and regulations on the FDA website and I saw this one thing. I took a screenshot. I was like, this can't be true. And they're going to take it down tomorrow. I just want a screenshot of it. And what it said was the FDA does not require you to prove that a supplement is safe before you bring it to market.
I know.
Which is,
I heard about that. That's why I asked you.
yeah, which is you have heard of it. A lot of people are like, that's not what I thought the FDA was doing. And
No.
that's not what I thought the FDA was
Yeah,
doing.
yeah.
But when you pull back and you look at it, it is the right decision just based on their budget. Like they would need infinite budget because
Yeah, I know.
we could have Myrna's antioxidant, and it could be 10% vitamin D and 90% vitamin E, and then you got Chris's, which is the reverse, and now they're two different supplements. How is the FDA going to approve all of these? It's just never going to happen. But there is a requirement. When you bring a product to market, if anybody reports any serious side effects, you have to report that to the FDA. Now, if we were to get one, by the way, we haven't gotten one, but if we were to get one, it's our responsibility to report it to them. And that doesn't mean they shut us down, right? Because there's going to be an N of one. Maybe somebody was allergic to olive oil or
Mm,
allergic to carbon, which is
mm.
impossible. But like,
But if you put a disclaimer, does not get you because that's what people put. Disclaimers,
well,
right?
you've got the disclaimer, but you still have the responsibility to report the
Okay.
incident to
All
the
right. All
FDA,
right.
right? And so that's the important piece. So so we're crossing the T's, dotting the I's with the FDA and the FTC. So really that means we haven't had to report anything to the FDA, so we're not on their radar, and we shouldn't be, right? Because
Right.
what we're delivering is high quality and a naturally occurring molecule. Um, and so then my next role as this, now chief scientist of a supplement company is to try and figure out where does this rat study, this 90% extension of life, where does it fit in other supplements? Where does it fit in the longevity space, in the longevity world? And so I kind of looked at what the medical community thinks about aging. And they tend to think, not everyone, but they tend to think that aging is an oxidation and an inflammation process.
Yeah.
So in terms of oxidation, there's an ad hoc study on the web showing us to be 172 times more powerful than vitamin C. And there's peer-reviewed published research showing us to be 125 times more powerful than vitamin C. So I'm from Texas. We got a big old check mark on antioxidant.
Hmm.
Now, when it comes to inflammation, we have to be really careful about how we talk about inflammation. And because the FDA equates conversations with inflammation, about inflammation, with the diseases of inflammation, which are also the diseases of aging, right? So that's
Right.
arthritis, Alzheimer's, cardiovascular disease, cancer. And
Hmm.
so if I come on your show, thank you so much for having me. But if I come on your show and say we solve chronic inflammation, the FDA hears me saying or claiming we cure cancer, we cure
Cancer.
cardiovascular disease, which is not what we're
Yeah.
saying, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There is so
Yeah.
much more research that we would need to do, so much more expensive research that we would need to do to make those claims. What the FDA does allow us to say is that we address exercise induced inflammation, right? So we've all
Mhm.
had a tough workout or maybe just walked farther than normal, woke up that next day and felt that inflammation in our body. We're allowed to say that we address that type of inflammation. So we've got a check mark in that box. And then that really leads into this BOSS theory, right? Buffering oxidative stress system right there in the mitochondria. And think about this. What we believe we're doing is we're reducing the negative impact of stressed mitochondria. And if you
Mhm.
reduce the negative impact of stress mitochondria, you should have exactly what we have, which is head to toe testimonials. And in like in on every system, on every study, it's absolutely amazing what this molecule is doing. And so I have the joy of coming on shows like yours and sharing the geeky science, which I love to do, and then ultimately reaping the benefit of all these testimonials that are coming in. And maybe that's something we could hop into next.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. I'm sitting here and I'm like really impressed because, yeah, I mean, I knew nothing about glutathione, and then someone comes on and talks about it, and then you come on and talk about the ESS, and then I've had people come on about the hyperbaric chamber, oxygen
Mm.
chamber, and I have someone else come on about something else, and I'm thinking, boy, I'm going to try them all.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm happy to send you a care kit because I love to get my product into the hands of people. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
I'm going to try them all. So that's amazing. Now, I haven't had anybody come on and talk about melatonin.
Mm.
Maybe I should search for somebody in that because I have found some surprising things about melatonin. I take it at night to sleep,
Mm.
but I wasn't aware that it's a gatekeeper. I've heard somebody say something about it unlock cells for something, and I don't have any. I haven't had any conversation on it. Not, I don't want to get into it now, but
I can talk about melatonin a little bit, right? Because
okay,
so melatonin is very interesting. One, it's a hormone, right? It's an antioxidant. It's known as the sleep hormone. And the best way to describe it, I picked this up. There's a book called Why We Sleep by Dr. Matthew Walker. Sometimes I have it at my desk here. An amazing book about sleep and what with all the negative things that happen to you when you don't get enough sleep. And
right.
what he describes in it is that melatonin is the starting gun to tell your physiology it's time to get ready to sleep. Now, if you take too much or you take it too late, you can imagine at 1 o'clock in the morning, you don't want your physiology going, hey, it's time to get ready to sleep, right? You actually should be asleep and you want to stay asleep.
Right.
So dosing, and some people are super sensitive, some people are less sensitive. So dosing of melatonin, a lot of the products on the market, you know, the consumer is like, oh, do I get a one gram tablet or do I get a 5 milligram tablet? One
I
milligram,
take
five
10.
milligram, and you're instinctively as a consumer, you're like, I should get more, right? But it may not be good for you. So you can actually be very groggy when you wake up. Melatonin is a good tool. Again, when you dose and how much you dose can have a positive impact on jet lag if you're traveling, right? Because again, if you could convince your physiology off the clock, right? Because you're in a different time zone, hey, it's time to get ready to go to
Ready to
sleep,
sleep.
then
Right.
that would be beneficial. I'll tell you with our product. So my wife and I travel from time to time and we travel internationally. We just don't experience jet lag
Mm.
because when you're reducing the negative impact of stress mitochondria, like when you're stressed because you're not sleeping at the right time, that's a stressor. Then you want to be able to manage those reactive oxygen species, and that's exactly what's happening. It's holding on to them so that then the body can manage them properly.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that explanation of melatonin. I love that. All right. So one of the questions I've here, you're saying that there's some surprising myths about aging that science now debunk. So what are the myths about aging that science has debunked?
Yeah, I think well, one, I love what Dr. David Sinclair talks about. He's got a book called Why We Age and Why We Don't Have to, which is a pretty fantastic title.
I've
And
never
he
heard of that
talks
one. I've always been talking about Dr. Atia's book, which is to me one of the best books on aging I've read.
absolutely. And some of the concepts that Dr. Atia picks up are from Dr. David Sinclair. Right.
Okay.
He's a
Okay.
Harvard medical researcher. So he's not a doctor, he's a medical researcher. He's
Okay.
been attacking aging for 25 plus years.
All right. I
Uh,
got to
he's a
get
little
that one.
bit he's a little bit controversial, but what he talks about is the information theory of aging, which is that as we age, we're kind of like a CD. So you and I resonate with a CD. Maybe you got some of your younger audiences like, what's a CD? It's a way you used to listen to music. And if it got scratched, then you couldn't
Right.
listen to the music
Right.
anymore, right?
Right.
And so we actually have the CD in our body, then it gets scratched, and now it's not able to function as well. It's not able to replicate the cells as well. But he also points out there is the master copy somewhere. So I can take, Myrna, I can take almost any cell of your body and we could make a baby Myrna. We can do that by cloning from the cells in you. So all the information necessary to have a much younger Myrna is in every cell in your body. And his
Wow.
theory is if we can just figure out how to pull the right levers, then we can start rolling back age. And they're showing some pretty phenomenal results. One of them is that they've pinched the optic nerve in mice, so that is usually an unrecoverable injury. Also, it replicates that damage that occurs with age, and they're able to reverse that. Right, so some pretty fantastic things are happening at that Dr. Sinclair's lab, and and so here we've got this theory, and it's pretty easy to understand. Like the levers are there, we just got to figure out how to pull them. Now you couple that with this next piece of information, which is pretty fantastic. So in 1950, medical information doubled every 50 years. Every 50 years, it doubled. when I started kind of quoting this stat, it was probably 9 months ago. 9 months ago, medical information was doubling every 3 months. So
Wow.
to give you some
Uh,
perspective,
we're
what that
getting
means is,
smarter, huh?
yes. Now there's going to be some junk information, right? Like that's for
Right.
sure. Like we all
Right.
have experienced junk information at this point.
Hmm.
Um, but what that means is, imagine at the beginning of 2025, there was a collection of information, and at the end of 2025, we're going to have 16 times more information than we started in 2025, right? And that really, when I started quoting this number, doesn't really include AI, and maybe it
I
never
was
will
just
include.
thinking of AI, if
Yeah.
that's part of the revolution. Okay.
And that doesn't necessarily, I don't know that that's going to double information yet, right? We don't, you really need AI and robotics running experiments in the lab all on its own in order for that to really, but once that starts happening, like, we're just going to solve so many things so much faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but where I think AI is going to come in first, and David Sinclair in some interviews that I've seen has talked about this already, where they can throw AI at a problem where they're looking at, say, protein folding, or they're looking at the sites that a particular molecule will attach to and have particular impacts on physiology. And the AI system can look at all of these molecules and all the things that we know about these molecules and come up and go like, hey, here's a molecule that does 3 of the things you were hoping it would do. Those things used to take like an entire degree, right? A master's degree for one,
Mhm.
biological student, student studying biology, and now they're happening overnight, right? So it's not just that information is doubling every 3 months, it's that the quality of information, right? So a scientist goes into a day with, 50 studies that they could do. And then AI says, well, you should do these 3 because they're more likely to succeed, they're more likely to
Let's
have
see.
more impact. And now not only is it, doubling every 3 months, but the quality of the results is significantly higher. And I say all that to say,
Right.
if if we believe it's possible, it's good. Well, if it's actually possible, right? So we have this belief that it might be possible, but if it's actually possible, it's going to happen so much faster than we realize.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. As you were talking, I remember listening to something that Deepak Chopra, but because he's got an AI, he's built an AI site and he's got AI or whatever. And he was given the example about someone had told him that his wife had a terminal illness or something. And it would normally have taken him like 4 years to study how he can help her with that. And he was able to go into um, uh, the library and get AI to help him to solve this problem like in a day or something.
Yeah.
So that is basically what you're saying. Like it would take somebody 4 years to understand a problem, and AI, because it's large model, whatever it's called,
Yep.
um,
Large language model.
can,
Yep.
yeah, right. It can get all this information and get it to you in a day. So is that the myth now that things take a long time? Is that the answer to the question? They don't take a
Well,
long time anymore?
I think the big myth is addressed, I think, by what's called the terminal velocity of aging, which is to say that for every day we live, the medical community is extending life by a little bit. And at the point that every day we live, the medical community is extending life by just over a day, right? So 1.1 days. That is the terminal velocity of aging, meaning at that point, we will not die, right? And I think this is why the topic of longevity is coming up, right? Because you and me, we're getting older and we were like,
Yeah.
we would like to be around. There's a lot of people who aren't interested in being around longer. And that's interesting. And I
Well,
think,
that's because they think they'll be sick, right? But
you
that's
are,
why health span, which is a topic that Dr. Atia threw out there, is more important than lifespan, right? Because you don't want to be around if you're going to be sick.
yeah. Yeah. And so if we get to the point where we can cross this terminal velocity of aging, where there will be somebody, I believe, on the planet who will be the last person to die of aging, to die of a disease. I don't want to be that person. I want to be on the other side of that. I want to be on the positive side of that finish line. And what that means is work hard, eat right, do all the
Yeah.
things that are necessary First off, you have a great life. Like I have a better life. 5 years ago, I was probably the heaviest that I've ever been. I kind of flipped, turned around, got really focused. Products certainly helping, and now I feel better than ever. Now I'm hungry from time to time, right? Because you really, like, the human body wasn't designed to be full of food, especially full of like the sad American diet food all the time. We were designed to be hungry sometimes. It's one of the things
Mhm.
that I like about intermittent fasting is the fact that when you're doing intermittent fasting, hunger's the goal, right? Like when you're doing other kind of diets, you're like, oh, this hunger, it sucks. When do I get to eat next?
Right,
When you're
right.
doing intermittent fasting, you're like, I'm hungry. Yay. Like that's what's supposed to be happening. It's the
Yeah,
goal.
but you don't want to be hungry.
Yeah. Yeah. If you don't want to be hungry, frankly, you're probably not going to cross that finish line,
Yeah.
on the positive side.
But the crazy thing about it is like anything, you're hungry for like 2 days or so, and then your body gets used to it.
Yep.
You just got to
Yep.
get through those hard days, and have the willpower to not go
Yep.
eat. But yeah, like you
100%.
said, that's stress in the body, and that's good stress. One of the things I learned by, interviewing several people is autophagy and things like that about what happens during a 12-hour fast or even a 24-hour fast. So that's
Yep.
great. Yep. All right. So, what distinguishing is the ESS60 from other supplements aimed at vitality and anti-aging?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of supplements out on the market that brag about operating at the cellular level, and they should, because there are supplements that don't even operate at the cellular level, right? They just operate at the level of the gut, which is important, right? Like we want to make sure that our gut biome is thriving and optimized. But for us in this BOSS theory, the buffering oxidative stress system theory, we're operating at a subcellular level, right? And when
Mm,
people start asking me, hey, I have this kidney concern, do you think this might help? Well, do you think reducing the negative impact of stress mitochondria in the kidney would help, right? The kidney do its job better? Yes. Oh, how about my liver? Reducing the negative impact of stress mitochondria in your liver is probably going to help your liver do its job the way it's supposed to. Yeah, so I think that is the differentiating factor, that we actually work at the level of the mitochondria.
okay. So that's great. All right. All right. So now tell us about your company, MyVitalC. How do you support physical, mental, and cognitive longevity in everyday life?
Yeah, so I'm doing that a number of ways. Of course, we have our product, right? And our keystone product is our olive oil, ESS60 and olive oil. I have a podcast called Live Beyond the Norms where I interview, just like you, currently interviewing 2 people per week. It's exhaustive, lots of work. Apparently, we're interviewing some of the same people in the health and wellness space. And I
Yeah.
think you have a kind of a broader topic range, but my focus is that. Putting out really good tips and tricks onto social media. You can find me at MyVitalC, C as in carbon. So that's really important and growing. And I did a longevity summit. So I interviewed 55 experts in longevity, including Dave Asprey, Ben Greenfield, Dr. Stephen Gundry, some of the famous ones. Um, and so that's available online. And then I wrote a book called Live Longer and Better. Your journey to living longer and better has never been more achievable than today is the byline of that. And so those are the things that we're doing to kind of help people and push people and support people on their longevity journey. I like to say that I'm a longevity scientist whose focus is to help you live happier, healthier, and longer, pain-free with science.
Yeah, I saw that in your bio, and that's a great, great, great model to have and a mission because
Mm.
yeah, I mean, I just wanted the health span, but yeah, if you want to live happier too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and pain free, you know. I have reversed my pain. So I'm not quite sure. I walk every day and you know, due to things I speak to a lot of people that are in the longevity and health space, and I am working on some of the things that I learned. So yeah, I'm almost pain free. I am pain free.
That's awesome. That is
Yeah, I
very awesome.
mean,
Well
five
done.
years
That's not
ago,
easy.
Well, yeah, 5 years ago, yeah, I had lower back pain and sciatica and knee pain and all those things. And people would say, "Well, why do you walk?" But I heard someone says again that um, motion is lotion,
Yes,
and I
100%.
think that's what happened with me because I walk every day and my pain has gone away. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, that's absolutely amazing. And one of the things that I'll preach about on my channel, wherever you're at, figure out what is the lowest level of exercise that you can do every day so that you do it at least 5 days a week, right? And then optionally on Saturday and Sunday or whatever. Obviously, it's often easier to kind of create a schedule around Monday through Friday. But if that's 5 minutes of walking, do 5 minutes of walking. And if 10 minutes of walking causes you to skip on Wednesday, don't do 10 minutes of walking. Do 5 minutes of walking. Like, what is the minimum that you can do? And maybe you want to do more, right? Maybe it's an hour or whatever that looks like. But don't let the fact that it's an hour stop you from doing 5 minutes, right? Get out there and move your body every single day. I love motion is lotion. Your muscles are the things that will deteriorate as you age, and they are this kind of massive barrier between you and old age.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know. Everybody's been telling me that I have to get into the gym too, but I love walking so much that I rarely go to the gym. But I am. I'm still enjoying the benefits of the walking because I'm in Florida, so I get the sunshine too.
That's awesome. Yeah, that vitamin D is really important.
Yeah,
I would
I get
highly encourage you, like choose one day a week, even if it's only 5 minutes or 10 minutes, to get some dumbbells and move them around. You want to be sore once or twice a week. Like
yeah, I know.
that is really important as we age our muscle. They'll do X-rays of like the thighs of people, and they'll be the same as when they were in their 20s. The problem is that it's all fat and not muscle,
Awesome.
right? And so you may like, look, I fit into my high school jeans, so I'm good. Yeah, but is it the same amount of muscle versus fat? That is the thing that you want to be focused on. Muscle is the thing that again protects you from aging.
Yeah, I heard that. I know it.
Be
I
sore
heard it.
once a
I
week,
know it. Yes, I just gotta do it. But
or
yeah,
maybe
I
even
mean,
start
what?
to carry dumbbells when you walk one day a week.
I actually, I got that again from Dr.
Peter Attia.
Tia. I
Yeah,
have
the
the
weighted
rough
vest.
back.
Yeah, the
The
rucksack.
weighted vest. I
Yeah,
do have that. I
that's
walk with a
awesome.
weighted vest. 20-pound weighted vest. So yeah, but yeah, I was going a couple days a week. I just haven't gone recently. But yeah, I know everybody talks about the muscle and all that stuff. Awesome. Well, yeah, this was a fabulous conversation. Now, what is your website, Chris?
So we made a link for your audience, right?
Okay.
And we can adjust this URL. So myvitalc.com/transform your mind, right?
Okay.
So
Or
if
you
they
can
go
just
to
have transform. It's fine with me.
transform, okay,
Right.
yeah, that'll work. Let's do transform. So myvitalc.com/transform. When they go there, there is a $15 off coupon for their initial order. So that's pretty spectacular. There's also 18 biohacking tips. I mentioned that longevity summit where I interviewed 55 experts. I compiled 18 biohacking tips. That's absolutely free when you go there. So please go to myvitalc.com/transform, pick up that 15 off coupon. There are products on that page. We've got the right bundles. You really should be trying this product out for 2 or 3 months. And there's also subscription. There's a discount if you go on subscription. So take advantage of that. Even if you only want 2 bottles or whatever, go on subscription, take advantage of that discount, and you can cancel at any time. Our customer service team has 1,000 5-star reviews on Google. They're not trained to talk you out of canceling their subscription. They're trained to help you, and they are amazing. By the way, most people just stay on subscription. Well over 50% of our sales are subscription sales. And then I do have my book, Live Longer and Better. I've got a charity piece to the book. So you can find the book on Amazon, Live Longer and Better, right there. It's $19.95 on that link. So myvitalc.com/transform. At the very bottom of the page, you can find the book for $19.95, or you can get a signed copy of the book for $10 extra. I'll autograph it for you. 100% of that $10 fee goes to Operation Underground Railroad. You may remember the movie The Sound of Freedom, which was an amazing movie about a horrible topic, child sex trafficking. Operation Underground Railroad is doing an amazing job of working to get child sex trafficking off of our planet. So 100% of that signature fee goes to Operation Underground Railroad.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I only heard of Operation Underground Railroad as it pertained to freed slaves. I didn't know
Yeah,
that
well,
they
that
were
was that
into
was the
sex trafficking.
Underground Railroad, right? So
Okay,
they're kind of playing with that, right? You
okay,
certainly would like a escape path for anybody who's stuck in child sex trafficking, and
okay,
so it's Operation Underground Railroad.
okay. All right. Well, yeah, that's amazing. That's a good charity. That's good work.
I happened
Um,
to see him speak, the guy who started Operation Underground Railroad, the week that the movie The Sound of Freedom came out, and so just a moving speech, a moving movie. Like it's an amazing movie about a horrible topic, and so we
yeah,
just want to continue to support them.
that's beautiful. That's great. It's always good to have something that you support and stand for. So
Yeah.
that's amazing. All right. Well, I will also have that in the show notes as well, so that people can go ahead and take advantage of all the offers. So I will have a I like saying transcript, but it's not the entire transcript.
Mm.
The highlights of my
The show
conversation,
notes. Yeah.
Chris. Right?
Yeah.
Show notes. That's a better word, right? Show notes are an article on the show page, which is myhelps.us. I will link out to Chris's website. I will link out to his book. I will link out to his social media handles. And also, I will have the coupon that he's offering. And that is amazing because I'm definitely going to try this molecule. I mean, 5 minutes into the conversation, he talks about sleep.
And you're like done.
I know, right? So you hit my hot spot right away. Talk about sleep. So yes, I am definitely going to be one of the people that's going to be trying this. And of course, anything that helps with oxidative stress, I'm on board. Because I learned a long time ago from Deepak Chopra about oxidative stress, and that's why one of my supplementation has always been vitamin C and vitamin E, those type of things. But now, like you're saying, we're getting much past that. We've got the glutathione now, we've got the ESS60 molecule and whatever else they come up with that are 100 times better than those the vitamin E's and vitamin C's. So amazing. All right. Well, thank you, Chris, for being on the show. Any last words before we wrap up?
No, Myrna, I just want to thank you so much. Great questions. Your energy is amazing. You've done whatever 600 plus interviews. You're a seasoned professional, and it shows. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for the conversation. Of course, the fact that you're an improv person and a podcaster, our conversation just flowed, and that's why I like this job. I love having, really good conversation. So,
Mm.
this was one of them. So, thank you guys. Thank you, Chris, for being on the show. Thank you for this amazing information that you've shared with us, and thank you guys for tuning in to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life. I mean, if you like the guests that I bring on board, then I would love for you to subscribe, rate and review, and share this episode so that more people would get the information that I'm putting out into the world. Thanks, Chris. Thanks you guys for tuning in. Until next time, namaste.